Ever stared at your old shower valve and thought, I know I need to replace this, but if I touch that copper plumbing, I'm going to end up with water spraying everywhere? You're not alone. That fear keeps a lot of homeowners writing checks to plumbers for a job that's honestly a lot simpler than it looks. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the complete process of installing a new shower valve using PEX, PEX, rhymes with flex. From shutting off the water all the way through pressure testing the finished system. And stick around to the end, because I've got a bonus tip that'll show you how to check every single connection you make, so you can sleep easy knowing nothing's going to leak behind that wall. Let's get into it. Replacing a shower valve is one of the most rewarding plumbing upgrades you can do yourself. It saves you real money, and the truth is, once you understand how PEX works with a couple of simple crimps, it takes most of the intimidation right out of the job. So, let's start by understanding what we're working with and what you're going to need. Before we pick up a single tool, let's talk about what's actually happening in your shower wall. You've got two water supply lines, one hot and one cold, coming up from below. They connect to a shower valve, which is the mixing body that controls your water temperature and flow. From the valve, one line goes down to your tub spout and another goes up to your shower head. In most older homes, all of this is done in copper. What we're going to do is keep the copper where it comes out of the wall, convert it to PEX with a simple solder fitting, and then use PEX and crimp rings for everything else. That means you only need to make 1 or 2 solder joints total, and the rest is just cutting PEX to length and crimping it on. If you can squeeze a pair of pliers, you can do this job. Now let's get to work. The very first thing you need to do before you touch anything is turn off your water supply. I know that sounds obvious, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone get excited and start cutting pipe before they've shut things down. Find your main shutoff valve. In most homes, it's in the basement near where the water line enters the house, or it might be near your water heater. Turn it all the way off. Now here's the part people forget. Just because you turned off the valve doesn't mean the lines are empty. They're still pressurized. So go to the lowest faucet in the house, usually a laundry sink or a basement faucet. Open it up and let everything drain. Then come back upstairs and open the bathroom faucet too. You want to get as much water out of those lines as possible, so that when you start cutting copper, you're not dealing with a stream of water fighting against you. Trust me, a couple minutes of draining now saves you a big headache later. Once your lines are drained, it's time to remove the old valve. Now, depending on how your old valve was installed, it might be screwed to a crossbar, nailed to a stud, or attached with some kind of mounting bracket. Take a close look before you start pulling things apart. I like to use a small flat bar or even a stiletto trim bar to pry off any nails or brackets. Don't be shy about it. If you're replacing the whole valve, you don't need to be gentle with the old one. One thing I will say, though, is don't throw away any copper you remove, especially the piece running down to your tub spout. You might need that later, and good copper is worth hanging on to. To cut the copper supply lines, you're going to want a copper tubing cutter. This is a little handheld tool. Costs about $15 at the hardware store. You just clamp it onto the pipe, tighten the knob, and rotate it around. Every full turn, tighten it just a little more. After about 6 or 7 rotations, you'll cut clean through. Copper is a soft metal, so this goes faster than you'd think. Make your cuts a few inches below where the old valve was, mounted. You want enough clean copper sticking out of the wall to work with, at least 2 inches of exposed pipe on both the hot and cold lines. Now, if your old connections were soldered, you could also heat them with a torch and pull them apart. But honestly, for a beginner, the tubing cutter is cleaner and a lot less stressful. All right, now here's where we set ourselves up for success. Before you can solder on your copper to PEX adapter, you need to get that copper absolutely clean. Grab some sandcloth. You'll find it in the plumbing aisle right next to the flux and solder. Some folks call it emery cloth, some call it plumber's cloth, but whatever name is on the package, it all does the same thing. Wrap it around the end of your copper pipe and work it back and forth until that pipe is bright and shiny like a brand new penny. You want to clean at least 1.5 inches of pipe. Don't cut corners and just clean a little ring around the top. All it takes is one dirty spot and your solder won't bond properly, which means a leak hiding behind your wall. Now do the same thing for the inside of your fitting. Use a fitting brush, which is a little round wire brush that fits inside your copper fittings. Give the inside a good scratch so the solder has somewhere to grab. While you're at it, scratch up the outside of the brass adapter too. Those little grooves give the solder something to hold on to, and it makes a huge difference in the quality of your joint. Here's the fitting you're going to use. It's a female Copper-to-PEX adapter. The reason we use the female version is because it slides right over the outside of your copper pipe, just like a regular copper coupling. The male version is the same diameter as the copper itself, which is useful in other situations. But for what we're doing here, female is the way to go. These adapters have a copper solder end on one side and a PEX crimp barb on the other. One solder joint, and you've converted from copper to PEX. That's it. Now let's solder. Apply a thin layer of flux to both the outside of the copper pipe and the inside of the fitting. Flux is what pulls the solder into the joint. Think of it like a magnet for molten metal. Slide the fitting onto the pipe and make sure it's fully seated. Now light your torch. You want a medium flame, nothing crazy. Here's the key that most beginners don't know. You heat the fitting where you want the solder to go, not the solder itself. So aim your flame at the top of the joint and touch your solder to the bottom. When the fitting gets hot enough, you'll see the solder melt on contact and get sucked right up into the joint by the flux. That's the moment you know it worked. You'll actually see a little silver ring appear around the base of the fitting. That tells you solder has flowed through the entire joint. While it's still warm, take a damp rag and give it a quick wipe. That cleans up the excess flux and gives you a tight, professional-looking seal, this for both the hot and cold lines. And your copper work is done. That's the only soldering you'll do on this entire job. By the way, if you're finding this helpful so far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of this series. All right, let's keep moving. Now it's time to mount your new shower valve. Most modern shower valve systems come with a mounting bracket that screws directly to the stud in your wall. Before you mount it, decide on your height. The old standard was to mount the valve pretty low because people use the tub more than the shower. These days, most people shower almost exclusively, so I like to put the valve around 48 inches off the floor of the tub. That's comfortable for reaching while you're standing, and it's still low enough to reach if you're bent over filling the tub for kids or grandkids. Use a laser level to find your center line between the studs, mark your lumber, and screw the bracket in place. A laser level is one of those tools that once you own one, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. It takes all the guesswork out of getting everything straight and level. Before you permanently mount the valve, do a dry fit. Hold the valve in position and check that your copper supply lines are going to reach the hot and cold inlets. Also check the distance down to where your tub spout will go and up to where your shower head connection will be. Take a mental picture of how the PEX is going to rotate. In tight spaces between studs, you'll probably need PEX elbows. If you've got more room, PEX is flexible enough to make gentle bends without any fittings at all, which means fewer connections and fewer places that could ever leak. That's one of the beautiful things about working with PEX. All right, now for the fun part. This is where PEX really shines. Measure the distance from your Copper-to-PEX adapter to the inlet on the valve. Here's a trick from the field. Measure your gap and then add 1 inch. That gives you a ½ inch of pipe that slides into each fitting. Mark your measurement on the PEX. I love that most PEX tubing has measurement markings printed right on it, so you barely even need a tape measure. Cut your PEX with a PEX cutting tool. This is basically a ratcheting scissor that gives you a clean square cut every time. One thing to keep in mind, always use the cutter in a rotating motion rather than just squeezing straight down. If you squeeze straight through, you can crush the pipe out around, and then getting fittings on becomes a real fight. Before you make any connection, slide your crimp ring onto the PEX first. I can't stress this enough. If you forget the ring and push the PEX onto the barb, you have to pull it all off and start over. Ask me how I know. So make it a habit. Every time you cut a piece of PEX, the very next thing you do is slide a ring on. Then push the PEX onto the barbed fitting until it's fully seated. Slide your crimp ring to about 1/4 inch from the end of the pipe, right up against the fitting. As long as that ring is sitting on top of one of those barbed ridges, you're going to have a solid, watertight connection. Now take your crimping tool, line it up on the ring, and squeeze. 1 crimp, and you're done. Do this for every connection. Hot supply to valve, cold supply to valve, valve down to tub spout, and valve up to shower head. Now a quick word on crimping tools. They used to cost $300 or $400, which made them hard to justify for a homeowner doing one project. But companies have come out with much more affordable options now, around $50 to $80. For a one-time job, that's still a lot cheaper than calling a plumber. And once you own one, you'll find uses for it all over the house. With all your PEX lines crimped, it's time to put the valve back together. If you remove the cartridge and the shutoff stops before soldering, which I always recommend, so you don't damage any rubber seals. With heat, now's the time to reinstall them. Slide the stops back in for the hot and cold sides. They pinch together to insert, then spread apart once they're seated in the valve body. Push the cartridge back in and thread on the retaining nut. Go hand tight, then just 1/4 turn with a wrench. Don't over-tighten anything on machine brass. These threads are precise, and if you crack a fitting, you're starting over. One more thing. When you're threading on the shower head test cap or the tub spout connection, wear gloves. Those machine brass edges are razor sharp. I learned that one the hard way when my hand slipped and those threads sliced right across my palm. Now the moment of truth. Go turn your water supply back on, but do it slowly. I like to have someone downstairs at the main valve while I stay upstairs watching the connections. Use a cell phone so you can communicate. Have them open the valve slowly, about halfway at first. With the shower valve in the off position, check every solder joint and every crimp connection for drips. Take your time here. Run your finger along every joint and look for even the smallest bead of water. If everything is dry, have them go to full pressure. Now open the shower valve and let water flow through the tub spout and the shower head connection. Check again for leaks under full flow. If you see a small drip at a crimp, don't panic. Sometimes the ring just needs to be re-crimped or repositioned a hair. That's an easy fix. Let's talk about some common problems you might run into and how to handle them. First, a slow drip at a solder joint. This usually means either the copper wasn't clean enough or the flux didn't pull the solder all the way through the joint. You'll need to drain the line, heat the joint back up, and add more solder. To prevent this, always clean your copper until it's bright and shiny and use plenty of flux. Second, PEX that won't slide onto the barb fitting. This happens when the pipe got crushed, slightly during cutting. Trim off the damaged end and cut again using the rotating method I mentioned. A clean, round cut slides right on. Third, a crimp ring that seems loose after crimping. Your crimping tool might not be calibrated properly. Most crimp tools come with a go-no-go gauge. Check your crimps with it. The ring should fit inside the go side, but not the no-go side. If it's loose, recrimp it. Fourth, water hammer or banging pipes after you turn the water back on. This can happen when air is trapped in the new lines. Open all the faucets and let the air bleed out for a couple of minutes. The banging should stop once the air clears. Fifth, hot and cold reversed. Traditionally, hot is on the left and cold is on the right. If you mix them up, you'll know right away when you test. The fix is simple but annoying. You'll need to swap the PEX lines at the valve. If you follow every step we've covered, you should be able to avoid most of these issues entirely. Now for that bonus tip I promised you at the beginning. Once you've got everything connected and you've done your visual check for leaks, here's what the pros do before they close up the wall. Thread on a test cap to your shower head outlet. That's a little cap with a gasket that seals off the line completely. Then close the shutoff stops on the valve so the tub spout is sealed too. Now turn on full water pressure. What you've done is pressurize the entire system with no water flowing out anywhere. Leave it like that for 30 minutes. Come back and check every single joint. If anything is going to leak, it'll show up under sustained pressure. I do this on every single job, and it saved me from callbacks more times than I can count. You never want to find a leak after the tile is up and the wall is closed. 30 minutes of patience now can save you thousands of dollars later. Those test caps are available at any plumbing supply store, and they're worth every penny. So that's everything you need to know to install a shower valve with PEX. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you never miss a new video. And if you've got any questions or you've done this job yourself and have tips to share, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.